Welcome to the Sleeping Archive, where history comes alive through the voices of those who lived it.
My name is Marek Nowak, and I have worked the morning shift at the Lenin shipyard printing facility in Gdańsk for 14 years. Each morning at 5:30, I walk the same route from my apartment on Chłopska Street, past the bakery where Mrs. Kowalska waves from behind flour-dusted windows, past the bus stop where the same faces wait in the gray pre-dawn light. The printing facility hums with mechanical precision. 4 massive offset presses, imported from East Germany in 1967, their metal frames painted the same industrial green as everything else in our socialist paradise. The smell of ink and paper has become part of my skin, worked into the lines of my palms like a worker's tattoo. I am the senior technician, which means I know which press will jam before it happens, which ink mixture will produce the clearest text, which paper grades will feed smoothly through the rollers. We print the official publications: Tribuna Ludu, Standard Młodych, factory newsletters, party directives. The words march across the pages in perfect formation, each letter precisely aligned, each message carefully approved by the censors before it reaches our plates. I prepare the type, check the registration, monitor the ink flow. The machines roar their industrial lullaby, and I work in their rhythm, my hands moving with practiced efficiency. Tomasz Bartkowski arrives at 6 sharp, as he has every morning for 8 years. He's my assistant, 26 years old, married to a school teacher, father of twin boys. He nods his greeting and begins the ritual of starting the second press. We work in comfortable silence, the morning radio playing softly from the supervisor's office. News of the political situation, always carefully worded. The unions are causing troubles, they say. Solidarity continues to make unreasonable demands. The situation requires careful monitoring. The morning shift is predictable. We print 12,000 copies of the regional party newspaper, 3,000 copies of the factory newsletter, various smaller publications. The work is honest, the pay adequate, the hours reasonable. I am good at my job. I have been recognized twice for efficiency improvements, once for a suggestion that reduced paper waste by 7%. My supervisor, Citizen Lewandowski, speaks well of my reliability, but there are other things Citizen Lewandowski does not know about my reliability. At 10:15, during the scheduled break, I walk to the supply closet. Behind the boxes of paper stock, carefully hidden beneath cleaning supplies, I keep a small notebook. In this notebook, I record information that will not appear in any official publication. Production numbers for the shipyard, details about meetings I overhear in the supervisor's office, names of workers who have spoken favorably about solidarity, information that travels through different channels, reaches different readers. The notebook is part of my other life, the one that begins when the day shift ends. At home, in our small apartment on Chłopska Street, Anna is preparing dinner. She moves efficiently around our tiny kitchen, her dark hair pulled back, her hands steady as she cuts vegetables. 20 years of marriage have taught us to communicate without words. She knows when I've had a difficult day at the factory, when the political situation weighs heavily on my mind, when I'm carrying secrets that cannot be shared over dinner. Our daughter Kasia sits at the small table, her school books spread before her, pretending to study mathematics while actually reading a book hidden beneath her notebook. She is 16, tall like her mother, with the same dark eyes that seem to see everything. She attends the technical school, studies to become an engineer, but I know she spends her afternoons with friends who talk about things that would make her teachers uncomfortable. "How was work today, Tata?" she asks, using the diminutive that always makes me smile. The usual. Printing the truth as approved by the authorities. She looks up at me with those dark eyes, and I see understanding there. She knows there is more to my work than the official version. Children of our generation, they understand the layers of meaning in every conversation, the space between what is said and what is meant. Anna serves dinner, potato dumplings with cabbage, a small piece of meat that she managed to acquire after waiting in line for 2 hours. We eat in comfortable silence, the radio playing softly in the background. The evening news repeats the same careful language. The political situation remains stable. The government continues to monitor the activities of anti-socialist elements. Citizens are encouraged to report suspicious activities. After dinner, Kasia disappears into her room, ostensibly to complete her homework. Anna washes dishes while I sit at the table, reading Tribuna Ludu, with the careful attention of someone who knows how to read between the lines. The political situation is indeed tense. Solidarity continues to organize strikes and demonstrations. The government speaks of the need for law and order. There are rumors of Soviet troop movements near our borders. At 9 o'clock, I make my excuse. I need to check something at the factory, I tell Anna. She nods without question. After 20 years, she has learned not to ask for details about my evening walks. The streets of Gdańsk are quiet in the December evening. A light snow has begun to fall, muffling the sound of my footsteps on the cobblestones. I walk past the same landmarks, the bakery, now closed and dark, the bus stop empty, the small shop where old Mr. Kowalski sells cigarettes and newspapers. The city feels different in the evening, as if the official version of reality has been temporarily suspended. I am walking toward a different kind of work, one that requires different skills, different tools, different kinds of truth. Changed the lock 5 months ago, claiming he needed better security for his valuable tools. Mrs. Gorska is 73 years old and has survived the Nazi occupation, the Stalinist purges, and 40 years of socialist reality. She asks no questions about the sounds that sometimes emerge from the basement in the evening, the smell of ink that occasionally drifts through the ventilation system, the visitors who arrive separately and leave at different times. I knock 3 times, pause, knock twice more. The heavy door opens, and Jersey's face appears in the dim light. He is 42 years old, a former journalist who lost his position at the regional newspaper after writing an article that asked too many questions about factory safety conditions. Now he works as a night watchman at a construction site and spends his evenings operating a very different kind of printing press. The basement is larger than it appears from the outside, extending beneath the adjacent building through a passage that was bricked up during the war and reopened by Jersey and his friends. The space is divided into several areas: a workshop with a small offset press, a storage area for paper and ink, a composition area with manual typesetting equipment, and a distribution center where finished publications are sorted and prepared for circulation. Tonight, 4 others are already at work. Stefan Kowalczyk sets type by hand, his fingers moving with the precision of a craftsman. Barbara Lewandowska operates the small press, her movements efficient and practiced. Andrzej Nowicki and Piotr Szczepański fold and sort the finished publications, their conversation a quiet murmur beneath the mechanical sounds of the press. Marek, Jerzy greets me with a nod. We have a special project tonight. He leads me to the composition area, where the pages of a new publication are being prepared. The masthead reads, Robotnik, Worker, with the distinctive logo of Solidarity. This is not the official Solidarity publication, which is printed in Warsaw under careful government supervision. This is the underground version, the one that reports what the official press cannot say. Information from the Lenin shipyard, Jerzy explains, pointing to a section of text. Production numbers, safety violations, details about the management's response to worker demands. Your information, I read the text carefully. My notebook provided most of the details, specific production figures, names of supervisors who have threatened workers, incidents that were not reported to the authorities. The information is accurate, carefully verified, presented without editorial comment. The facts speak for themselves. How many copies? I ask. 500. To be distributed tomorrow morning before the shift change. I nod and move to the press. This machine is different from the industrial equipment at the factory, smaller, quieter, assembled from parts acquired through various unofficial channels. The ink is mixed by hand, the paper cut to size with tools that Jersey purchased from a supplier who asks no questions about their intended use. The work begins in familiar rhythm. Prepare the plates, check the registration, monitor the ink flow. The same skills I use during the day shift, applied to a different kind of truth. The press runs smoothly, each page emerging with clear, readable text. 500 copies of information that will not appear in any official publication. Barbara approaches the press, her expression serious. "There are rumors," she says quietly. "Increased police activity. Checkpoints on the main roads. Something is happening." Jersey looks up from the typesetting table. "What kind of rumors?" "Military vehicles moving toward the city center. Radio communications from the security services. My contact at the telephone exchange says they're monitoring calls more carefully." We continue working, but the atmosphere has changed. The mechanical sounds of the press seem louder, more conspicuous. The basement feels smaller, more confined. We exchange glances, but say nothing. After 2 years of operating this underground press, we have learned to trust our instincts about danger. By midnight, the 500 copies of Robotnik are printed, folded, and sorted for distribution. The publication contains 8 pages of information that will not appear in the official press. Details about working conditions at the shipyard, reports of police harassment of union organizers, news about solidarity activities in other cities, an editorial calling for peaceful resistance to government intimidation. The distribution network is carefully organized. Piotr will deliver copies to contacts at 3 different factories. Andrei will distribute them at bus stops and train stations during the morning rush hour. Barbara will leave bundles at locations where sympathetic workers will collect them. The copies will be passed from hand to hand, read quickly, and passed along again. I take 20 copies in a canvas bag, hidden beneath my winter coat. These will be distributed at the Lenin shipyard, placed in locations where workers will find them during the morning break. The loading dock, the cafeteria, the washrooms. Hidden but accessible, waiting for the right eyes. We clean the press, store the equipment, remove all traces of our evening's work. The basement returns to its official function as a storage area for bicycles and winter equipment. We leave separately, walking different routes through the quiet streets of Gdańsk. The snow has stopped, and the city is silent beneath a layer of white. Street lamps cast isolated pools of light on the empty sidewalks. I walk slowly, listening for any sounds that might indicate surveillance. The weight of the publications in my bag feels heavier than their actual mass, as if they carry the accumulated gravity of all the secrets they contain. At home, Anna is asleep, her breathing soft and regular. I undress quietly, careful not to wake her. The publications are hidden in a hollowed-out space behind our bedroom radiator, a hiding place I constructed 6 months ago. 20 copies of truth that will find their way to 20 different readers. I lie in bed, listening to the sounds of the city. Somewhere in the distance, a car engine starts and drives away. The radiator clicks softly as it cools. Anna shifts in her sleep, her hand finding mine beneath the covers. Tomorrow is Saturday. No work at the factory, no evening session at the underground press. Time to spend with Anna and Kasia, to pretend that our lives are as simple as they appear on the surface. Time to be nothing more than a print technician who lives in a small apartment with his wife and daughter, who reads the official newspapers and listens to the official radio broadcasts. But the publications hidden behind the radiator remind me that there is no such thing as a simple life in Poland in 1981. Every choice carries weight. Every action has consequences. Every truth demands its price. I close my eyes and try to sleep, but my mind continues to run like a printing press, producing thoughts and images that will not be stilled. The weight of secrets is heavy, heavier than the machinery I operate, heavier than the ink that stains my hands, heavier than the paper that carries our words into the world. The telephone rings at 4:47 a.m. on Sunday morning, December 13th. I know the time precisely because I look at the clock radio beside our bed, its red digits glowing in the darkness. Anna stirs beside me but does not wake. I reach for the phone, my hand already knowing that this call will change everything. Marek, the voice is Tomasz, my assistant at the factory. His words are careful, measured. You need to listen to the radio. Right now I turn on the small radio in the kitchen, keeping the volume low. The national anthem plays, followed by an announcement that makes my blood run cold. General Wojciech Jaruzelski, speaking in his characteristic measured tone, declares martial law throughout Poland. The Military Council of National Salvation has assumed power. All public assemblies are banned. Travel between cities is restricted. Solidarity leaders are being arrested. The military is restoring order. Among those reportedly detained is Lech Wałęsa, the leader of Solidarity. His arrest confirms what we already suspected, that the government's goal is not just control, but decapitation of the movement. Anna appears in the doorway, her face pale in the dim light from the radio. She has heard enough to understand. Without speaking, she moves to the window and looks out at the street. In the distance, we can hear the sound of trucks moving through the city, their engines echoing off the buildings. "Where is Kasia?" Anna asks. Our daughter's room is empty, her bed unslept in. A note on her pillow. "Staying at Magda's house. Back tomorrow. Love, Kay." Magda Kowalska is Kasia's closest friend, daughter of the baker on our street. But I know that Kasia has been spending time with young people who organize meetings, who distribute leaflets, who talk about resistance. My daughter is 16 years old, and she has inherited her generation's instinct for opposition. The telephone rings again. This time, it is Jerzy, his voice tense but controlled. "The basement is cleared," he says, using our code for the underground press. "Everything is safe." He pauses. "But we need to be very careful now." I dress quickly and walk to the window. The street below is quiet, but I can see military vehicles at the intersection 2 blocks away. Soldiers in winter uniforms, their weapons clearly visible. The city is under occupation by its own army. Anna stands beside me, her hand finding mine. "We have been married for 20 years, have survived economic crises, political upheavals, the constant pressure of living in a surveillance state. But this feels different. This feels like the beginning of something that will test every choice we have made, every relationship we have built, every belief we have held." "The publications," Anna says quietly, "behind the radiator." I nod. The 20 copies of Robotnik are still hidden in our bedroom, waiting for distribution. But the distribution network no longer exists. The contacts at the factories are probably being arrested. The meeting places are being watched. The underground press has been scattered by the wind of martial law. The radio continues its announcements. All strikes are illegal. All public gatherings are banned. Citizens are required to carry identification at all times. A curfew is in effect from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Anyone violating these regulations will be arrested by military authorities. I think about the printing press in Jerzy's basement, now silent and hidden. I think about the network of people who have risked their safety to distribute information that the government does not want circulated. I think about my daughter, somewhere in the city with her friends, carrying ideas that have suddenly become dangerous. By 8 o'clock in the morning, the full scope of martial law has become clear. Roadblocks at every major intersection, military patrols in the city center, Solidarity headquarters sealed by soldiers, the shipyard closed indefinitely. The normal rhythm of life in Gdańsk has been replaced by the mechanical precision of military control. I walk to the bakery on our street, hoping to find news of Kasia. Mrs. Kowalska opens the door but does not let me inside. Her face is frightened, her hands trembling as she speaks. "Magda came home at 6 this morning," she whispers. "She was with a group of young people near the shipyard. They were distributing leaflets when the soldiers came. Everyone scattered. Where is Kasia?" "I don't know. Magda said they separated. She hasn't seen her since the weight in my chest grows heavier. My daughter is somewhere in the city, possibly with other young people who are now considered enemies of the state. She may be hiding, she may be arrested, She may be trying to make her way home through streets filled with soldiers who have orders to detain anyone acting suspiciously. I return home and find Anna sitting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea that has grown cold. The radio plays classical music now, interrupted every few minutes by official announcements. Citizens are advised to remain calm and cooperative. Normal economic activity will resume when order is restored. The military actions are temporary measures necessary to preserve the security of the state. I need to look for her, I tell Anna. It's dangerous. The curfew, the soldiers. She's our daughter. Anna nods, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Be careful. If something happens to you, what will we do? I put on my winter coat and place my identification papers in my inside pocket. The publications hidden behind the radiator seem to burn with invisible fire, but I cannot remove them now. Any unusual activity in the apartment might draw attention, and attention is the last thing we need. The streets of Gdańsk are eerily quiet. Most shops are closed, their windows dark. Military vehicles patrol the main thoroughfares, their occupants watching pedestrians with professional suspicion. I walk carefully, avoiding groups of soldiers, staying in areas where my presence can be explained by legitimate business. At the technical school where Kasia studies, the gates are locked and guarded. A soldier tells me that all educational institutions are closed until further notice. Students are advised to remain at home with their families. I walk to the areas where young people gather, the park near the old town, the square in front of the church, the streets around the university. But these places are now empty, watched by military personnel who question anyone who lingers too long. Near the shipyard, I encounter a checkpoint. 2 soldiers, young men, not much older than Kasia, examine my identification papers with careful attention. Your business in this area? One asks. Looking for my daughter. She didn't come home last night. They exchange glances. Name? Marek Nowak, 16 years old, student at the technical school. One soldier makes a note in a small book. If she has been detained, you will be notified through official channels. Return to your home and wait for information. The bureaucratic language chills me more than the December air. Detained is a word that can mean anything from a few hours of questioning to months in prison. In the new reality of martial law, the distinction between suspicious activity and criminal behavior has become meaningless. On Monday morning, the factory remains closed. A notice posted on the gates announces that all industrial facilities will reopen when the security situation permits. Workers are advised to report to their supervisors for further instructions, but the supervisors are not available for consultation. I walk through the empty corridors of the printing facility, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The massive presses stand idle, their mechanical voices stilled. The smell of ink and paper lingers in the air like a ghost of normal activity. Tomasz meets me in the supply room, his face drawn with worry. My wife's school is closed, he says. The teachers have been told to report for ideological assessment. Anyone with connections to Solidarity will be removed from their positions. What about the press? I ask, meaning both the official printing operation and our underground activities. Everything is being watched. There are informants everywhere. My neighbor asked me yesterday if I knew anyone who might have underground publications. He said the authorities are offering rewards for information. The weight of the secret compartment behind our radiator grows heavier. 20 copies of Robotnik. That could send Anna and me to prison. That could destroy Kasia's future if she is found with one of them. But even as I think this, I know that the underground press cannot simply disappear. The information we have been circulating is more important now than ever. People need to know what is happening, need to understand that they are not alone in their opposition to martial law. That evening, I make a careful reconnaissance of Jersey's neighborhood. Military patrols are frequent, but they follow predictable patterns. The basement entrance can be reached through a route that avoids the main streets, using alleys and courtyards that are not regularly monitored. At 10 o'clock, I knock on the door using our established signal. Jerzy opens it immediately, as if he has been waiting. His face is grim but determined. "We need to talk," he says. Inside, the basement has been reorganized. The printing press is now hidden behind a false wall that Jerzy and Stefan constructed over the weekend. The typesetting equipment is stored in containers that appear to hold bicycle parts. The paper and ink are distributed among several hiding places throughout the building. 3 of our distributors have been arrested, Jerzy reports. Piotr was taken from his apartment on Sunday night. Barbara's supervisor informed the authorities that she had been seen with suspicious materials. Andrzej managed to escape, but his apartment is being watched. Rumors say ZOMO units raided a university dormitory last night. They're not just arresting leaders, they're making examples. What about the others? Stefan is safe for now. He's staying with relatives in the countryside. 2 of our contacts at other factories have gone underground. The network is disrupted but not destroyed. I think about Kasia, still missing, possibly arrested, possibly hiding with friends who are now considered enemies of the state. The irony is bitter. I have spent 2 years helping to produce underground publications, and now my own daughter may be a victim of the crackdown those publications helped to provoke. "We need to continue," Jerzy says. "People need information more than ever. They need to know that resistance is possible, that they are not alone." The next morning, Anna receives a telephone call from the school where she works as a secretary. She is told to report for questioning about her knowledge of subversive activities among the staff. The conversation is brief and terrifying in its bureaucratic politeness. "They know something," Anna says after hanging up. "Someone has given them information." We sit at the kitchen table, the weight of our secrets pressing down like a physical presence. The publications behind the radiator, my involvement with the underground press, Kasia's activities with her friends, any of these could be enough to destroy our family. We need to make decisions, I tell Anna, about what we can risk, what we must protect. "Kasia is what we must protect," she says immediately. "Everything else is secondary." I nod, but I know the calculation is more complex. If we are arrested, who will look for Kasia? If we abandon our principles, what kind of world will she inherit if she survives? The radio provides a constant stream of official information. The military authorities announce that order is being restored throughout the country. Several thousand individuals have been detained for questioning about anti-state activities. Normal economic activity will resume as soon as security conditions permit. Between the official announcements, I detect subtle changes in the broadcast schedule. Programs that usually feature interviews with workers and farmers are replaced with classical music. News broadcasts focus on international affairs rather than domestic events. The radio has become a carefully edited version of reality. That afternoon, I receive an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Gorska, the building superintendent from Jerzy's building, appears at our door. She is a small, elderly woman who has survived more political upheavals than most people can imagine. Her eyes are sharp and intelligent, and she speaks in the careful language of someone who has learned to navigate dangerous times. "I have a message," she says, settling into the chair Anna offers, "from a friend who cannot deliver it himself." The message is from Jerzy. The underground press will resume operations on Thursday night. The location has been changed for security reasons. I am to meet at a different address, using a different set of signals. The network is adapting to the new reality of martial law. There is other news, Mrs. Gorska continues, about young people who were detained near the shipyard on Sunday morning. My heart stops. What news? 23 individuals were arrested. Most have been released after questioning. A few are still being held for further investigation. Names? No names. But there is hope. After Mrs. Gorska leaves, Anna and I sit in silence. Hope is a dangerous emotion in our current situation, but it is also necessary. Without hope, there is no reason to take risks, no reason to resist, no reason to believe that our actions can make a difference. The publications behind the radiator wait patiently. 20 copies of truth that could cost us everything, but that might also help to preserve something worth preserving. The weight of secrets is heavy, but the weight of surrender would be heavier still. On Thursday morning, Kasia comes home. I am sitting at the kitchen table, reading the official newspaper with the careful attention of someone who knows how to decode its hidden meanings. When I hear her key in the lock, Anna rushes to the door and I hear their voices. Tears, whispered explanations, the sound of a daughter apologizing to her mother. She appears in the kitchen doorway, thinner than she was a week ago, her dark eyes holding experiences that have aged her beyond her 16 years. Her clothes are wrinkled, her hair needs washing, but she is alive and unharmed. Tata, she says, using the diminutive that breaks my heart. I stand and embrace her, feeling the reality of her physical presence, the warmth of her body, the steady rhythm of her breathing. She is safe. She is home. The weight in my chest begins to ease. Where have you been? Anna asks. Hiding, moving from place to place, staying with people who... She pauses, choosing her words carefully. People who helped us. Us? The group from Sunday morning. We were distributing leaflets near the shipyard when the soldiers came. Everyone scattered. I stayed with different families, people who knew it was dangerous but helped anyway. She sits at the table and Anna brings her tea and bread. Her hands shake slightly as she holds the cup, but her voice is steady as she continues. They arrested some of us. Piotr Kowalski, Magda's older brother, 2 girls from the university, but most of us got away. The people who helped us, they have children too. They understood, I think, about the network of ordinary people who have chosen to risk their safety to help young protesters. Families who opened their doors to strangers, who shared their food with people they barely knew, who understood that the choice between safety and solidarity is sometimes no choice at all. What happened to the leaflets? I ask. Kasia looks at me with those dark eyes that see everything. I still have mine, she says quietly. She reaches into her jacket pocket and produces a folded piece of paper. I recognize it immediately. One of the copies of Robotnik that we printed in Jersey's basement. The paper is wrinkled, the ink slightly smudged, but the text is still readable. I kept it, she says. Even when the soldiers were searching for us, even when it would have been safer to throw it away. I kept it because I wanted to remember what we were fighting for. Anna and I exchange glances. Our daughter has been carrying one of our underground publications for 5 days, through military checkpoints and police searches, risking arrest and imprisonment. The irony is profound and terrifying. Kasia, I say carefully, this is very dangerous. If you had been caught with this, I know, Tata. But throwing it away would have been like saying that what we were doing didn't matter, that the truth isn't worth preserving. She smooths the paper on the table, her fingers tracing the words with reverence. There are things in here that I didn't know, about working conditions at the shipyard, about what really happened during the strikes. Information that helps me understand why people are willing to take such risks. I look at the publication my daughter has been carrying, the words that I helped to print, the information that I helped to gather. The circle of risk and responsibility has closed in a way I never expected. That evening, I walked to the new meeting place for the underground press. The location is a storage room beneath a church, accessible through a passage that connects to the sacristy. The priest, Father Kowalski, is an elderly man who fought in the Warsaw Uprising and has no illusions about the cost of resistance. Jerzy is waiting with Stefan and 2 people I don't recognize, a woman in her 30s who works at the telephone exchange, and a young man who claims to have access to mimeograph equipment. The underground press is adapting, finding new resources, recruiting new members to replace those who have been arrested or forced to withdraw. The situation is stabilizing, Jersey reports. The initial crackdown has ended. They've arrested the leaders they wanted to arrest. Now they're settling into long-term control, which means we can resume operations, but we need to be more careful. Smaller print runs, better security, more careful distribution. The old network is compromised, but we can build a new one. I think about Kasia, sleeping safely in her bed, the underground publication hidden in her room like a talisman. I think about Anna, facing questioning at her workplace, trying to protect our family while living with the knowledge of my double life. I think about the 20 publications still hidden behind our radiator, waiting for distribution that may never come. There's something else, I tell Jersey. My daughter was carrying one of our publications when she was hiding from the soldiers. She kept it for 5 days, through checkpoints and searches. Jersey nods slowly. The next generation understands what we're doing. That's important. She's 16 years old. She could have been arrested, imprisoned, expelled from school. Her future could have been destroyed. Her future will be destroyed anyway if we don't continue this work, Stefan says quietly. That's what they want, for us to be so afraid for our children that we stop resisting, to make the cost of opposition higher than the cost of submission. The conversation continues, but my mind is elsewhere. I think about the choices that define a life, the moments when principle and pragmatism collide, the weight of responsibility to family and to society. I think about the printing press that I operate during the day, producing official truths, and the printing press that I operate at night, producing unofficial truths. I think about the ink that stains my hands, the words that emerge from the machines, the power and danger of information. The meeting ends with a decision to resume underground publishing operations on a smaller scale. New security procedures, new distribution networks, new ways of protecting both the information and the people who carry it. I agree to continue my participation, but I know that the calculation has changed. The risks are higher, the stakes more personal, the consequences more immediate. Walking home through the quiet streets of Gdańsk, I carry the weight of choices that cannot be undone. My daughter has joined the resistance, whether I approve or not. My wife faces questioning about activities she knows nothing about. My own involvement in the underground press has become more dangerous and more necessary than ever. The ink that I work with every day has become the ink that bleeds through the official boundaries of truth, carrying information that challenges the authority of those who claim to control reality. The printing press has become a weapon, and I have become a soldier in a war that I never chose but cannot avoid. At home, Anna is waiting at the kitchen table. The radio plays softly in the background. Its official announcements, a counterpoint to the unofficial truths that circulate in whispered conversations and hidden publications. Some nights, I try to tune into Radio Free Europe through the static, but the jamming has grown worse, as if truth itself must be drowned in white noise. How is Kasia? I ask. Sleeping, finally sleeping peacefully. And you? Worried. About her, about you, about all of us. I sit beside her, taking her hand in mine. We'll be careful. We'll protect her, and who will protect you? The question hangs in the air between us, unanswered and unanswerable. In the new reality of martial law, protection is an illusion. Safety is temporary. The only choice is between different kinds of risk, different ways of living with uncertainty. The publications behind the radiator wait patiently. 20 copies of truth that demand to be shared, that insist on circulation despite the danger. The ink has dried, but the words remain alive, ready to bleed into the consciousness of anyone brave enough to read them. Tomorrow, I will return to the official printing press, producing the sanitized version of reality that the authorities want to distribute. But tomorrow night, I may also return to the underground press, producing the unsanitized version of reality that people need to understand their world. The ink that bleeds is the ink that tells the truth, and the truth, however dangerous, is worth the risk of bleeding.
You've been listening to The Sleeping Archive. Sleep well. History will wait.